The Levites ministered to God by taking care of the temple. My old church back in Santa Barbara, they have what's called a Levite ministry, and it's the people who take care of the church. It's the people who set up the chairs, who clean the toilets, who vacuum the floors. And that's probably one of the most accurate descriptions of a Levite ministry in a church that I could think of. Ministry is simply service. So it's kind of funny. I went to college to get a degree in ministry, but the original ministers just took care of a building. Well, I shouldn't say that they're the original ministers, though. That would be false. We've been talking about the similarities between the temple and the Garden of Eden these last 2 weeks. So the Levites were called to minister to God by taking care of the temple. But if the garden is a type of temple, if it's an archetype for the temple, which is kind of what I'm getting at here, that the temple was based off of the garden. The Garden of Eden is where God originally dwelled with humans, and the temple replaces that as the place where God dwelt with humans, with the Israelites. So if the Levites were called to minister to God by taking care of the temple, then that means Adam, who received the same command to Avad and Samar, Adam was called to minister to God by taking care of the garden. What does that mean for us? We are also called to Avad and Samar. The same command for Adam and Eve to take care of the garden is our command to take care of the earth. And in so doing, we are taking care of God's creation and ministering to God. Now, I find it interesting that a lot of times we think of heaven as a distant place, that when we go to heaven, we're going to be with God in some spiritual realm, some distant spiritual place that will be completely different than what we have here. But that's not the picture painted in the Bible. Isaiah paints a very earthy picture of heaven. We see the same thing in Revelation, and Revelation is where a lot of people get their vision of heaven. But at the end of Revelation, God creates a new heaven and a new earth, and that's the place where we actually reside with God forever. So what we see around us is more like heaven than a picture of living in clouds or living in some strange spiritual realm. We live with God on earth, and we're going to live with God on earth forever. And our original command to minister to God by taking care of earth still stands. So when you take care of earth, when you pay attention to what you're throwing away and what you're recycling, when you pay attention to what you're consuming, how much waste you're producing, or when you're taking care of your garden, when you're paying attention to pollution, these things are all ways of ministering to God. So let's not make these a political issue. These aren't a political issue. These are a spiritual issue. This is part of God's command to us, and God's word remains true. God doesn't change his mind like us. God commands us, and his command remains. So let's all take care of the earth together, and let's minister to God by taking care of his creation.